Emma Cartwright had never thought she would return to the small town where she grew up. She used to say that Willow Creek was too slow for her, too quiet, too full of people who knew everything about everyone. But after years of living in the city, working long hours, paying high rent, and feeling more lonely than she ever expected, she found herself wanting something different. She wanted peace. She wanted space. She wanted the comfort of familiar roads and familiar faces. So, one bright morning, she packed her things, drove out of the city, and headed home. When she reached the town, nothing looked very different from how she remembered it. The same bakery sat on the corner, its windows full of fresh bread. The same old post office still had the faded sign from 20 years ago. Even the same slow tractors moved along the roads, making Emma smile in a way she didn't expect. But the biggest change was inside her, not around her. She had grown older, calmer, and more thoughtful. And as she looked around, she realized she was ready to reconnect with the place she once ran from. She began staying in her parents' old house at the edge of town, fixing small things and cleaning out dusty rooms. Neighbors came to welcome her back, bringing pies or flowers, and asking how long she planned to stay. She only smiled and said she wasn't sure yet. But in her heart, she knew she planned to stay longer than she had first thought. It was at the general store, about a week after her return, that she saw him again, Cole Rivers. Cole was easy to recognize. Even though Emma hadn't seen him in years, his tall figure and calm presence stood out the moment he stepped through the door. He wore a dusty hat and boots that showed he had been working outside all morning. He looked older, stronger, more serious than the boy she remembered from childhood. But something about him was the same, the quiet kindness in his eyes. He didn't notice her at first. He just walked to the counter with a respectful nod to the clerk. Emma felt a small twist of surprise. She hadn't expected to see him so soon, or for memories to return so quickly. They had known each other in school, though not very closely. He was the quiet one who sat near the windows, the one who helped teachers carry boxes, and always walked home with his hands in his pockets. She remembered hearing that he worked on a ranch outside town, taking care of horses and cattle. When he finally turned and saw her, his eyes widened just a little. "Emma?" he said softly, as if he wanted to be sure. She smiled. "Hi, Cole. It's been a long time." He removed his hat politely, something that made her grin. People rarely did that in the city. I heard you were back," he said, "but I didn't think I'd run into you so soon." They talked for a few minutes, small things at first. How long she'd been back, how the ranch was doing, how the town hadn't changed much. But even in those simple words, Emma could sense something gentle and respectful in him. He seemed shy, but not nervous. Simple, but not dull. He listened more than he spoke, but his eyes showed he paid attention to every word. After he left, the clerk leaned closer to Emma with a look that suggested she had something to say. "He's a good man," she whispered. "Hardworking. Loyal. But you know how people talk." Emma raised a brow. "Talk about what?" The clerk shook her head like someone who didn't want to repeat anything but couldn't help herself. "Oh, you know. The usual. That he's too quiet. Too shy. That he doesn't understand how to keep a woman happy. People say he's more comfortable with horses than people." She sighed. Small towns create stories even when there's nothing to say. Emma didn't respond at first. She only listened. She knew Willow Creek well enough to understand how rumors worked. Someone said something small. Someone else added to it. And soon it became a known fact, even if it wasn't true. People here liked stories, and they often didn't care whether the stories were fair. Still, something about the clerk's tone bothered her. Why were people talking about Cole in that way? And why did they say it with such confidence? As Emma walked home, she thought about him. Was he really, as the rumors claimed? She doubted it. Something about the way he behaved didn't match the picture people painted. He didn't seem unsure of himself. He didn't seem lost. He simply seemed thoughtful, quiet, yes, but calm and steady. Later that week, she ran into him again. This time, at the farmer's market. He was loading hay bales onto the back of his truck, helping an older man who was struggling with the weight. Emma watched for a moment before walking up to him. "You always helping someone?" she joked lightly. Cole looked up, surprised again, but happy to see her. "Only when they need it." The older man thanked him and drove off, leaving Emma and Cole standing beside each other. She asked him a few questions about the town, and he answered with easy patience. He didn't seem bored or rushed, even though he had work to do. "Would you like some help?" she asked, seeing a few more hay bales. He laughed gently. "I can't let you lift these. You'll hurt your back." She crossed her arms with a playful look. "So you think I'm weak?" "No," he replied simply. "Just someone I wouldn't want to see hurt." The words were warm, honest, and completely free of the awkwardness he was known for. Emma felt a small shift inside her. A spark of curiosity. The rumors felt even more strange now. Over the next few days, she saw him around town more often, sometimes by chance, other times because she felt herself wandering toward places he might be. And each time, she learned a little more about him. He worked at Sunrise Ranch, taking care of horses and repairing fences. He lived alone in a small house on the land. He helped neighbors with chores, even when he didn't have to. He never talked badly about anyone. He never argued. He didn't boast. And he didn't seem bothered by the fact that people misunderstood him. But she noticed he kept a quiet distance from most people. Not because he didn't like them, but because he seemed used to being seen a certain way, like he had accepted it. Emma didn't like that. It felt unfair. One afternoon, she walked into a cafe where two women were whispering loudly about him. They didn't stop when they saw her. They talked about how Cole was too simple, too quiet, and not the kind of man who knows how to make a woman truly happy. Their tone wasn't mean, but it was dismissive, like they had seen his whole life and judged it from the outside. Emma felt a heat rise in her chest. She didn't know why she felt protective of him so soon, but she did. Maybe because she had always hated unfair judgment. Maybe because she saw something in Cole that others ignored. Something steady. "People talk because they don't know him," she said calmly, as she passed their table. The women looked at her in surprise, and she walked away without another word. That evening, she found herself thinking about Cole again. Not just about his kindness or his quiet strength, but about the way people shaped his life with their careless words. Words that had followed him for years. Words that were probably untrue. Emma realized something important. She wanted to know him for who he really was, not the version the town created. And deep down, she sensed that there was much more to Cole Rivers than anyone in Willow Creek had ever bothered to see. Emma did not plan to grow close to Cole Rivers. It simply began happening little by little, in small moments that seemed ordinary at first. But ordinary moments have a way of turning into something meaningful when the right people share them. It started one cool morning when she drove past Sunrise Ranch on her way to the hardware store. She saw Cole kneeling near a broken fence, trying to fix a wooden rail that had clearly been hit hard by last night's storm. The clouds were still hanging low, and the ground was damp from the rain. Without thinking too much, she slowed down and stopped her car near the fence. Cole looked up from his work, caught off guard, but not unhappy to see her. "You're out early," Emma said. "Storm did some damage," he replied, brushing dirt off his hands. "The horses could wander off. If the fence isn't fixed." Emma stepped out of the car. "You need help?" Cole shook his head lightly. "I don't want you getting muddy." She knew he didn't mean it in a dismissive way. He simply cared. But Emma was not the type to turn away from work just because it was messy. "Mud washes off," she said, rolling up her sleeves. "Hand me something." Cole hesitated for a moment, but then he smiled, just a small smile, almost shy, and passed her a piece of smooth wood. And that was how their days together began. They spent the next hour replacing broken boards, hammering nails, and talking about simple things. Emma asked about the horses, and Cole shared stories of the ones he had raised since they were foals. He spoke with quiet pride, the kind that comes from love rather than ego. When the fence was repaired, Cole thanked her with an honesty that warmed her heart. "Most people avoid helping with this kind of work," he said. "I'm not most people," she replied. He looked at her for a moment, as if realizing that was true in more ways than one. From then on, Emma found herself visiting the ranch more often, not out of curiosity, but because she genuinely enjoyed spending time with him. She liked his steady nature, the way he listened, the way he made silence feel comfortable rather than awkward. And Cole, who usually kept a distance from others, seemed slowly to open up around her. One day, she brought him a basket of muffins she had baked. He raised his eyebrows, as if he'd never been given something so thoughtful. "You didn't have to do this," he said softly. "But I wanted to," she replied. He took one bite and froze. "What's wrong?" Emma asked, suddenly worried. Cole swallowed and said, "These are really good." She laughed so loudly that two horses in the nearby field lifted their heads in surprise. They began spending more time together, sometimes working side by side, sometimes simply walking around the ranch. Emma asked him questions he never expected anyone to ask. What was his dream future? What made him happy? What made him worry? At first, he answered cautiously, unsure of how much to reveal. But slowly, he discovered that Emma didn't judge. She didn't mock. She didn't assume she knew everything. She actually listened. One evening, they sat near the barn watching the sun go down. The sky was painted with gold and orange, and the fields glowed like soft fire. "It's beautiful here," Emma said quietly. Cole nodded. "I don't notice it most days. I'm too busy working." "That's a shame," she replied. "This kind of beauty should be seen." Cole glanced at her, and his voice was almost a whisper. "You make me notice it." Emma didn't respond right away. Her heart felt warm, and she wondered if he meant more than the sky. But she didn't push him. Cole was careful with his words, because he cared about saying things right. Rumors still floated around town. Emma heard them often at the cafe, at the grocery store, even on the sidewalk. People said Cole was too reserved, too quiet, too unsure of himself to ever make someone feel loved. They said he didn't know how to express emotions. Some said he didn't know how to connect deeply with anyone. Emma began to feel protective, though she never showed anger. Instead, she defended him in small, steady ways. "You don't know him," she would say calmly. "He's nothing like what you think." But the more she stood up for him, the more people looked at her with curious eyes. "Are you two getting close?" someone asked her one afternoon. Emma didn't answer. She didn't want the whole town involved in her feelings. But inwardly, she knew she had grown close. And she knew Cole sensed it too, even though neither of them had said it aloud. The turning point came on a warm Friday evening when Emma stopped by the ranch after picking up paint for her old house. Cole was sitting on the porch, cleaning his boots, and he stood up the moment he saw her. "You look tired," she said. "And you look like you handled more work today than I did," he replied, noticing the paint on her arm. She laughed. "That house needs more help than I expected." He offered to come fix things the next morning. Emma agreed, though part of her worried the town would start talking even more. But when he arrived the next day, cheerful and ready to work, she realized she didn't care what others said. They painted walls, replaced creaky boards, and worked until the sun was high. At some point, they sat outside, under the shade of an old oak tree, sharing iced tea Emma had made. Cole stared at the ground for a long moment before speaking. "Emma," he said softly. "People talk too much in this town." She nodded. They always have. They say things about me, he continued carefully. Things that aren't very kind. She placed her cup down slowly. I've heard the things. He looked up at her, unsure. And you don't believe any of it? No, she said firmly. None. Cole's shoulders softened, as if a weight had fallen away. I never understood why people make stories like that. Because they don't know you, she said. And instead of learning, they assume. He let out a slow breath. I guess I just got used to it. But when people talk about you, it bothers me more. Emma blinked, touched by his concern. They talk about me? He hesitated. Some say I'm not good enough for you, or that you'll realize they're right about me. Emma felt a strong wave of frustration not at Cole, but at the town. She leaned forward slightly. You are more than good enough, she said. You're strong. You're honest. You're kind. And you care more than you show. Cole met her eyes, and something unspoken passed between them. Not a confession, not a declaration, just the quiet beginning of something real. Over the next weeks, their connection grew even deeper. They rode horses together, shared meals, and talked about dreams they had never told anyone else. Cole's confidence near her grew slowly but clearly. He laughed more, smiled more, and even joked in his quiet way. Emma noticed the change and loved seeing it. Rumors continued, but they no longer mattered. The truth lived in the moments they shared, not in the words others spoke. One evening, as they walked down the dusty road near the ranch, Emma tripped over a small stone. Cole caught her arm quickly, steadying her. His touch was gentle but firm, as if protecting her came naturally. You okay? He asked softly. She nodded. But her heart was beating faster, for reasons that had nothing to do with the stumble. They kept walking, closer now, the space between them smaller than ever. That night, as Emma lay in bed, she finally understood what she had been feeling for weeks. She was falling in love. And she knew, without needing him to say it, that Cole felt it too. The day Emma and Cole decided to marry was not filled with dramatic speeches or sudden surprises. It happened quietly, almost naturally, as if life itself had gently guided them to that moment. They had been spending months together helping each other, sharing meals, talking late into the evening, and learning each other's hearts without needing fancy words. Their bond had grown strong, steady, and honest. When Cole finally asked her to marry him, it was simple and sincere, just like everything about him. They were walking along the ranch fence at sunset when he stopped, turned to her, and took a deep breath. Emma, he said softly, I don't have fancy things to offer. But if you want a life with me, I'd spend every day trying to make you happy. She didn't even let him finish the rest. Her answer was already clear in her eyes, her smile, her heart. I want that life, she whispered. Cole looked almost overwhelmed with relief and joy. He held her hands gently, as if she were something precious. The world around them seemed to pause. The golden light of the evening wrapped them in warmth, and for the first time, Cole felt like his life was opening in a way he never imagined possible. The news spread through Willow Creek faster than a summer storm. Some people were delighted, offering congratulations and warm smiles. But others whispered behind Emma's back, shaking their heads as if she had made a terrible mistake. The old rumors about Cole resurfaced, the same tired gossip about him being too quiet, too unsure, too inexperienced with emotions, and too simple for someone like Emma. Are you really going to marry him? A woman at the bakery asked Emma one morning. You're a beautiful, smart girl. You could marry someone who knows how to treat a woman right. Emma simply smiled politely. Cole treats me better than anyone ever has. The woman blinked, unprepared for the firmness in Emma's voice. But Emma heard worse comments later that week. At the grocery store, two men whispered loudly enough for her to catch their words. She won't last a month with him, one said. He doesn't know how to make a wife feel cared for. Emma kept walking, pretending not to hear. But a slow sadness settled in her heart. She didn't care what people thought of her. But she hated that they misunderstood Cole so deeply. She hated that they judged a man they barely knew. Still, she kept her calm. She didn't want to ruin her happiness by giving attention to people who loved gossip more than truth. The wedding day came sooner than Emma expected. She had planned something small from the beginning, just close friends, some family, and the warm space of the old town church. She didn't want a grand event. She only wanted something honest. Cole, nervous yet excited, wore his cleanest suit. It was a little old and not fancy, but he looked handsome in a way that made Emma's breath catch when she saw him. His quiet confidence and strong presence made him stand out more than any expensive clothes ever could. But despite his appearance, Cole couldn't hide his nervousness completely. He kept adjusting his tie, shifting from one foot to the other, and glancing at the church doors as if worried Emma might not walk through them. Inside the church, people whispered again. Some smiled kindly, but others spoke in low voices that were easy to read from their expressions. They doubted him. They doubted the marriage. They doubted Emma's choice. Cole felt the weight of those doubts pressing on him. His ears caught bits of conversations, phrases like, "Poor Emma, maybe she didn't know. And she'll learn soon enough." He tried to focus on breathing, tried not to let their words sink into his heart. Just then, the church doors opened, and the music began. Emma stepped in. Everything fell silent. She wore a simple white dress that flowed gently as she walked, nothing dramatic or decorated, but it suited her perfectly. Her smile was soft, real, and full of love. Cole felt his heart stop for a beat. All the whispers and doubts melted away the moment he saw her. Emma walked down the aisle with calm steps. She saw the looks in the crowd, some happy, some confused, some judgmental, but none of them mattered. The only person she looked at was Cole. When she reached him, he whispered, "You look beautiful." Her smile widened. "And you look like the man I want to spend my life with." The ceremony began slowly, with warm words from the pastor. Cole's hands trembled slightly when he held Emma's, but she squeezed them gently, grounding him. Her touch told him without words, "I trust you. I choose you. I believe in you." When it was time for Cole to say his vows, he cleared his throat and looked down, nervous. But when he lifted his gaze to Emma's eyes, everything else disappeared. "I may not be a perfect man," he said quietly, "but I promise to give you a good life. I promise to work hard, to listen, to support you, and to stand beside you through everything. I love you more than I can explain, and I'll spend my whole life showing it." Emma's eyes glistened. Her vows were just as heartfelt. "I don't need perfection," she said. "I need honesty. I need kindness. I need a partner who stands with me and cares for me. You've already given me all of that. I'm proud to be your wife. I believe in you more than anyone else ever has." Cole's breath caught. No one had ever spoken about him like that. Not once in his life. They exchanged rings. The pastor blessed their union. And finally, they were pronounced husband and wife. The guests clapped politely, though the applause from some sounded hesitant. A few people smiled warmly, but others looked stiff and uncomfortable, as if they still believed Emma had married the wrong man. But Emma saw none of them. She only saw Cole, who looked like a man holding back 1,000 emotions. At the reception, which was small and held at the ranch, people tried to be cheerful. Some congratulated them with genuine hearts. Others offered smiles too thin to be sincere. Emma noticed everything but responded with grace. She didn't want negativity to stain her special day. Cole stayed close to her, watching her with quiet admiration. But every now and then, Emma caught him looking at the guests with uncertainty, as if he sensed their doubts. During a quiet moment, Emma touched his hand and said, "Don't listen to them. They don't know you like I do." Cole lowered his gaze. I just don't want you to regret anything. Her voice softened. I won't. I never will. He believed her not just because of her words, but because her eyes held no hesitation. As the evening passed, the sky turned deep blue, and lanterns around the ranch flickered warmly. Friends and family eventually began leaving, and the noise slowly faded. By the time the last guest drove away, Emma and Cole were alone on their wedding night. Cole looked around nervously, as if trying to gather courage. Emma saw it immediately. She stepped closer and slipped her hand into his. We're married now, she whispered kindly. And nothing about this night needs to be perfect or fancy. We just need to be ourselves. Cole nodded slowly. The tension in his shoulders softened. He wasn't alone. He wasn't being judged. He wasn't living under the weight of rumors anymore. He was with his wife, someone who saw the truth in him when no one else did. They walked back to the little house on the ranch, hand in hand, ready to begin a new life that no rumor could define. When Cole closed the door of their small home behind them, the quiet of the night wrapped around them like a soft blanket. The ranch was calm, the fields silver under the moonlight, and the sound of crickets filled the air. It was their first night as husband and wife, a night many people in town had gossiped about, imagined, and misunderstood. But none of those people mattered now. The only truth that mattered was the one between the two of them, gentle, honest, and growing stronger with every minute. Emma looked around the cozy house, warmed by the soft glow of the lanterns. She remembered helping Cole clean and organize it weeks before the wedding. She had teased him for having so few things, only what he needed, nothing extra. He had laughed, telling her he was simple. But to Emma, his life wasn't simple. It was peaceful. It was real. And now it was theirs. Cole stood a few steps behind her, not sure what to do or say next. His hands were in his pockets. His shoulders were slightly tense. Emma could sense the nervous energy in him, the kind that came from years of being told he wasn't enough, from being judged before anyone ever took the time to understand him. She turned toward him, her expression soft. Cole, she said gently, you don't have to be nervous. Well, he looked up, surprised she noticed. He stopped, searching for the right words. I want tonight to be good. I want it to be something you remember happily. Emma walked closer, closing the space between them. She reached out and touched his arm lightly. It already is, she told him, because I'm here with you. That's all I want. Her voice was steady and warm, and the kindness in it seemed to melt something inside him. He let out a soft breath he'd been holding for too long. You always make things feel easier, he said quietly. That's what partners do, she replied with a small smile. They sat down at the small table near the window. Emma had prepared a little basket earlier that day. Simple snacks, a piece of cake, and 2 cups. She poured warm tea into each cup, and the steam rose in gentle swirls. It feels strange, Cole said, staring at his cup. What does? Emma asked. Knowing you're my wife now, he admitted with a shy smile. I never thought I'd get married. Not with the way people talked about me. Emma frowned slightly. Don't let their words stay in your mind. They were wrong. Cole. He nodded slowly. But the pain of old rumors was something that didn't disappear overnight. It had shaped the way he saw himself for years. Emma could see the traces of those memories in his eyes. She reached across the table and took his hand. Listen to me, she said softly. They never truly knew you. They only repeated stories because they had nothing better to do. But I know you. I've seen your patience, your strength, your kindness. I've seen the real you. No. Cole looked at her with a depth of gratitude she had never seen before. You don't know how much those words mean to me, he said. She squeezed his hand. Then let tonight be the beginning of forgetting all the old stories. He nodded again, this time with more confidence. After finishing their tea, Emma stood and walked toward the small living room area. Cole followed her, still unsure, but trying. She sat down on the edge of the couch and looked up at him with a gentle smile. "Come, sit with me," she said. He did, slowly, carefully, like he didn't want to mess up something important. She could feel the warmth of his presence beside her. He wasn't like other men she had known. He didn't push forward. He didn't act confident just to appear strong. He was simply himself, quiet, thoughtful, sincere. Emma leaned her head lightly against his shoulder. Cole froze for a moment, surprised by how natural it felt. Then he relaxed, letting himself breathe. "You know," Emma said softly, "I've been waiting for this moment, not because of the night itself, but because I wanted to finally start our life together." Cole swallowed. "I feel the same." He hesitated, then added, "I just want to be good for you. I want to make you happy." Emma closed her eyes and let out a small laugh, not mocking, but warm and full of affection. "Cole, you make me happy every day," she said. "You make me feel safe. You make me feel valued. You don't need to worry about anything tonight. Just be with me. That's enough." He looked at her with a mixture of relief and admiration. No one had ever spoken to him with such understanding. No one had ever given him this kind of patience. It made him feel stronger, calmer, more confident. They talked for a long time about childhood memories, hopes for their future, little things they wanted to do together. They laughed quietly, shared stories, and enjoyed the peaceful silence between them. Every minute pulled them closer, not through dramatic moments but through simple, honest connection. At one point, Emma asked him, "Did you ever want to leave this town?" Cole thought for a moment. "Sometimes. When the rumors got bad, I thought maybe I should just go somewhere. No one knew me. But you stayed," Emma said. "I stayed because, deep down, I hoped someone would look past the stories one day. Someone who would see me as I am." Emma felt her heart soften. She slid her hand into his. "And you found her," she whispered. Cole looked at her as if she was the answer to every silent prayer he had ever kept inside. They continued talking until the lantern light grew softer and the house grew quiet. Eventually, Emma stood and held out her hand. "Come," she said softly. "Let's go rest." Cole hesitated only for a moment before taking her hand. There was no fear in his touch, now only trust. They walked to their room together, the soft floor creaking under their steps. It felt like stepping into a new world, a place built on truth, not rumors. Inside the room, the moonlight made everything gentle and calm. Emma turned to him and brushed her fingers lightly against his cheek. "You're not the man they talked about," she whispered. "You never were." He closed his eyes for a moment, letting her words wash over him. When he opened them again, there was a steadiness he hadn't shown before. "I'll spend my life proving that," he said quietly. Emma smiled, a slow, warm smile that held love, trust, and a deep sense of belonging. "You already have," she replied. And as the night continued in quiet, tender moments, something inside Cole finally healed. The old doubts, the hurtful whispers, the years of feeling misunderstood, they began to fade. Because in that small, peaceful room, with Emma's hand in his and her heart open to him, he finally understood something he had never believed before. He was enough, more than enough. And together, they stepped into a new chapter, one built on truth, on love, and on the quiet strength that had always been inside him, waiting for someone to see it. The days after their wedding felt different for both Emma and Cole. Not because their routines changed much. Cole still woke early to care for the ranch, and Emma still spent her mornings fixing the house and helping with chores, but because now, every small action carried a quiet happiness. They were husband and wife. They shared breakfast. They shared laughter. They shared the comfort of knowing that they no longer walked through life alone. What surprised Emma most was how naturally their partnership settled into place. She had imagined there might be awkward moments or uncertain steps, given how shy Cole could be sometimes. But instead, she found him growing more open each day. He smiled more freely, spoke more confidently, and showed her sides of himself that had been hidden beneath years of self-doubt. Cole had always been gentle, but now he also became more expressive, telling her when something made him happy, teasing her lightly when she painted a wall the wrong shade, or brushing her hair out of her face with a warmth that told her he finally believed he was worthy of love. Emma saw that confidence slowly take root, and it made her heart glow. Still, the town didn't forget the old rumors. Some people continued to whisper behind closed doors, unwilling to let go of their narrow views. But Emma noticed something interesting. The louder their quiet life became, the more their happiness started to show in ways that couldn't be ignored. One Saturday morning, they visited the farmers' market together. People watched them curiously as they walked hand in hand through the stalls. Emma could feel the eyes on them, the unspoken questions. But she held her head high, and Cole didn't let go of her hand even once. Mrs. Dalton, an older woman who was usually kind, approached them with a soft smile. "Cole," she said warmly, "you look happier these days." Cole blinked, surprised. "I am. And you should be," she added, glancing meaningfully at Emma. "You chose well." Emma saw the way Cole's shoulders lifted slightly, as if her words had gently pushed them upward. It was a small moment, but an important one. Not everyone judged him unfairly. Some people were beginning to see what Emma had seen from the start. As weeks passed, more people began noticing the change in him. Cole's quiet confidence shone through in the way he worked, the way he spoke, the way he carried himself. And each time someone complimented him or expressed surprise at his newfound confidence, Emma smiled silently to herself. This was the real Cole, the one she always knew existed beneath the surface. But one afternoon, while Emma was buying feed for the chickens, she overheard two women whispering in the next aisle. "Have you seen Cole lately?" one asked. "I have," the other replied. "He seems different." "Well," the first woman said with a sigh, "I suppose marriage changes a man." "No," the second woman said in a thoughtful tone. "I think Emma changed him. Or maybe she just brought out what was already there." Emma stepped back quietly, her heart full. She didn't want credit for anything. She only wanted people to understand Cole the way he deserved. A few weeks later, a storm struck Willow Creek. Heavy rain poured for hours, and strong winds shook the trees. Sunrise Ranch suffered some damage, several fences collapsed, and a few small structures needed repairs. Emma stayed beside Cole as he checked on the animals, helping where she could despite the cold rain. When morning came, they walked the ranch side by side, surveying the damage. Cole looked at Emma and said, "I don't know what I would have done without you last night." She smiled at him. "We're a team. Remember?" And their teamwork became the talk of the town. Neighbors stopped by to help with the repairs, and many of them saw firsthand the strong partnership between Emma and Cole. They saw Cole giving instructions with steady leadership. They saw Emma supporting him without hesitation. They saw how natural their bond was, how warm, how stable, how balanced. And slowly, the old rumors began to fade. People started saying things like, "Cole's turned into a strong husband," or "Emma looks so happy." And eventually, the harmful whispers became nothing more than memories, swallowed by the truth of the present. Emma didn't take pleasure in proving the town wrong. That had never been her goal. Her joy came from watching Cole grow into himself, into the man he had always been, even when others refused to see it. She watched the way he talked now, no longer hesitant or unsure. She noticed how he no longer kept his eyes down when someone spoke to him. She noticed how neighbors now listened to him, with respect. One evening, as they stood outside watching the sun set over the fields, Emma leaned against him and whispered, "I love the way you've grown." Cole turned to her, a little confused. "Grown?" "Yes," she said softly. "You're more confident now, more open." He looked down for a moment, humble as always. Then he said something she would remember forever. "That's because you believed in me when no one else did." Her eyes softened. "You always deserved to be believed in." Their life settled into a peaceful rhythm. They worked together, laughed together, and shared dreams for the future. Emma often imagined children running through the yard someday, filling the ranch with even more life. Cole spoke quietly about wanting to build a bigger home for their growing family in the future. These were gentle dreams, but powerful ones. Dreams built on trust and hope. Months later, when the town held its annual festival, Cole and Emma attended together. People greeted them with warm smiles, and several came up to Cole to chat or congratulate him on how well the ranch was doing. One man joked, "Looks like marriage did you some good, Cole." Cole smiled, not the shy smile of the past, but a real one. "It did," he said simply. "More than I can explain." Emma watched him speak with a mix of pride and love. This was her husband, the man others had doubted, the man she had seen clearly from the beginning. And now, the whole town saw the truth too. Later that night, after the festival lights dimmed and the music faded, Emma and Cole walked home together. The stars were bright above them, and the air was cool. Emma looked at him and said, "You proved everyone wrong." Cole shook his head gently. "No," he said. "I didn't set out to prove anything. I just wanted to be good to you." "And you are," she whispered. "Every day." He took her hand in his, holding it firmly but gently. "You taught me I didn't have to listen to old voices. I only needed to listen to the right one." Emma smiled softly. "And which one is that?" "Yours," he said. They continued walking, their hands intertwined. The world around them was quiet, peaceful, and full of promise. The old rumors, the old doubts, the old misunderstandings, they no longer mattered. What mattered was the love they shared, the life they were building, and the simple truth that Emma had known from the moment she truly saw him. Cole Rivers was not the man the town had described. He was better. He was kind, steady, loyal, and loving. And together, they had created a marriage strong enough to silence every rumor and brighten every shadow. As they reached their home and stepped inside, Emma looked back once at the dark fields behind them. The night was quiet, but it felt full of hope. Their story wasn't about gossip or doubt anymore. It was about growth. It was about truth. It was about love. And it was just beginning.